All right, guys. So it's April 16th. You guys just finished the test yesterday. For the most part, everybody did well. There was like two or three people that still have not taken it yet. You guys need to message me on Edsby to figure out what we're going to do to make that up. Otherwise, it's just a zero. But anyways, now we're going to start the trigonometry chapter now that we're done with the logarithm chapter. So starting with the easy part of trig, which is going to be angles of rotation. Now you've already kind of been introduced and we all kind of have a general sense of angles already. Like if I told you what would a 90-degree angle look like, you would tell me it's a right angle, so like a perfect L. And if I said a 30-degree angle, you would probably know from geometry that that's a 30 degrees would be an acute angle, so a pretty small one. And that kind of thing. So now we're going to be doing angles beyond that and negative angles also. So whenever you're doing angles of rotation, we're going to be using kind of this coordinate plane, this idea of a graph. Now, no matter what, whether it's a positive angle or a negative angle, you always start in the same place. You always start with this initial side here. So you always start on, I guess that would be the positive x side of the graph, but we're not thinking of these in terms of x's and y's. But so you always start, as you can see here, the initial side, the 0 degrees is always going to be on the right side. Now, when it's a positive rotation, you're going to start there and then you're going to rotate like this in this direction, counterclockwise. So backwards of a clock, basically. I don't know how much you guys stare at the clock in class all the time, so you should know what counterclockwise means. So wherever you start, that's called the initial side, and then whatever degree I have you draw, that's going to be called your terminal side. So starting is your initial side, wherever you end, wherever degree measure I give you, that's your terminal side. Now when it's a negative rotation, it's going to be the same thing. The only difference is you're going to rotate in the opposite direction. So you're going to start on the initial side, but then you're going to rotate clockwise like this. And so whatever degree I have you draw, that's where you're going to draw your terminal side. So then that's going to be the angle that you draw. Notice that where you start is going to be 0 degrees, no matter if it's positive or negative. A half turn is always going to be 180 degrees. A full rotation is going to be 360. So if I start on 0 and then make one full rotation, I would end up right where I started. So 0 degrees and 360 degrees is basically the same thing. Same thing when it's negative. So when you rotate 360 degrees in the negative direction, you still end up on 0 because 360 degrees is a full rotation, no matter what direction you go. So keep those in mind when we are drawing these angles. So let's start with the positive angles because these are easy and you guys know I'm a positive person, so always start with the positive. So 300 degrees, no matter what, you always start on the initial side, always in the same exact place. So there's your initial side right there. And then now we need to figure out where 300 degrees is going to be. Well, where we start is 0, right? And then a half turn is going to be 180 degrees. A quarter of a turn is 90 degrees. If I make a full rotation, that's going to be 360 degrees. And 3/4 of a turn is going to be 270 degrees. So if we're going to draw then a 300-degree angle, then we need to figure out, is that going to be closer to, so obviously it's past the 90 and 180, and it's past the 270. So it's going to be somewhere in between these two. Now, when you're drawing these, you do have to be kind of accurate, only in the sense that which side should it be closer to? Is 300 degrees closer to 270, or is 300 degrees closer to the 360? Well, 300 from 270 is only 30 degrees versus 300 to 360 degrees is 60. So it should be closer to the 270 degrees then. So then when you draw this, it should be closer to the 270. So this is what it looks like when you do the rotation. So you start here, you go around, and then it should end up right there, closer to the 270. Now you don't need to draw in all these degrees, the numbers, and you don't need to draw that black kind of partial circle that I did. All you need to show is the red one, the terminal side. So let's do another one. So 150 degrees, again, start with the initial side. So you're starting here, then you're going to rotate. Now 150 degrees, well, this is 0, this is 90, this is 180. So it's going to be between 90 and 180, right? Now, which one should it be closer to? Well, 150 is closer to 180. So then when you draw your terminal side, it should be closer to there. So that's what it should look like, a 150 degree angle. Now the last one is 900 degrees. So 900 degrees obviously is more than one full rotation. So this is 0, 90, 180, 270, and then back to here would be 360. Now, there's a couple ways of figuring this out. You could still just continue counting by 90s. So this is 360, then the next one would be 450, then the next one would be 540, and then you could just keep adding 90 degrees to over and over until you get to 900. I always have kids just divide how many times 360 degrees goes into 900. Or I've seen some kids, what they do is they take the 900 degrees and then they subtract 360 from that. So if you subtract 360, a full rotation, you get 540. Now 540 degrees, again, still doesn't fit on the graph, though I do have it written there, but let's say I didn't. So I don't know how to graph a 540 degree angle, so then I'll do the same thing. I will take 540, subtract a full rotation, 360 degrees, and so that would give you 180. So in other words, if I want to explain it a different way, I'm starting here, as always, and then I'm doing this rotation. So this one way around was 360 degrees. 2 rotations was 720 degrees. And 720, you still have more to go, right? So if you're at 720 and you need to get to 900, so that means you need to go 180 degrees more. So then you would go right here. So then this is where the terminal side would be. So you make 2 full rotations, that's 720 degrees, and then you still have some left over, so you draw whatever's left. So this is what a 900 degree angle looks like. It looks almost the same as a 180 degree angle. Now, same thing with negative angles. You still do the rotation, you just go in the opposite direction. So negative 300, well, keep in mind that this is 0, this is negative 90, this is negative 180, and negative 270, and this would be negative 360. So which one is it closer to again? Well, the closest that it is negative 270. So I'm going to draw the angle. Again, we started Started right here, rotated, and negative 300 degrees is going to be closest to the negative 270. So that's what it looks like there. So we started here, rotated counterclockwise, or sorry, clockwise to get to there. Negative 120, same thing. Start with 0, 90, negative 90, I mean, negative 180. So it's going to be somewhere between negative 90 and negative 180. Which one is it closer to? It should be closer to the negative 90. So then draw your angle closer to there. Negative 360 degrees, well, 360 is a full rotation, right? So if we're starting here on 0 and then doing a full rotation, 0 is the same thing as negative 360. So then it would be, this is where you start. This is where you start, but then when you do a full rotation, so full rotation in this direction, you end up right where you started, which would be negative 360. So this is where it would be. All right, so that's it for drawing positive and negative angles. So they're the same thing, just different directions. So here's your homework for today. So all you have to do is draw these 7 graphs. So draw each of these angles individually on the graph like I did. Same as always, homework's going to be due by tomorrow morning at 8:30 because that's when I'm going to be on there working on the next notes.